it's a very interesting lesson again derived from economics, and the problem statement, or rather I would not quote it as problem statement. The opportunity here is all organizations are trying to increase their revenue, right? But organizations, many a times leaders, managers, they do not think scientifically, and they do not even know that there is a condition, an optimal condition at which you can maximize your profits. And economics very beautifully is able to solve for that problem. And I'm assuming that you all understand why organizations want to maximize profits, because that lead to shareholder value maximization. Shareholder value is people who own the shares of the organization. If you increase their value, eventually the overall market capitalization or the market cap of your organization will also enhance. With that, I come back to the problem statement. What is that optimal quantity or optimal level at which you can maximize the profits? There will be a bit of differential involved, a bit of 10th or a high school math involved, so don't get intimidated. Bear with me, a lot of it is very intuitive as well after a point of time. So I I go back to the equation whereby you have profits is equal to revenue minus costs. I assume that you all understand that fundamental equation, profit equals to revenue minus cost. I go back to the high school math where you had all learned differentials, right? How do you find the maxima of an equation, right? How do you find the maxima of an equation? The answer is pretty simple. You differentiate it and equate it to zero, right? You take a first order differential of it and equate it to zero. So now we are talking profit equals to revenue minus cost. What are you left with? You are left with dr minus dc equal to zero. Dr is differential of revenue, dc is differential of cost, minus dr minus dc equal to zero. So what does that leave you with? It leaves you with dr equal to dc. Differential of revenue is equal to differential of cost. I changed the definition a bit. Instead of calling it dr, I call it marginal revenue, and instead of dc, I call it marginal cost. So your marginal revenue, when marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost, that is when your profit maximization optima takes place. Anything above that, right? This is basically called many times the break-even position as well. Now, what is MR and what is MC? I can totally understand if a lot of you may not understand. Let me take this pen, right? If you are in a factory whereby you're in the business of producing such pens, so MR is basically the price of one pen, the additional revenue that you get after selling one additional pen, which is equivalent to the price of a pen. So that is MR. Now you may ask me, Shatakshi, then what is MC? Whatever the expenses you bear to produce that additional pen is the MC. So for example, the outer layering that you see of this pen, the refill that goes inside this pen, for just one additional pen, that is MC. Now that is the intuition and the math behind it. You may ask, Shatakshi, okay, that is very intuitive. Where are the tools and techniques coming into picture? I will go back to the screen and show a very beautiful graph to all of you. In fact, that's the most popular graph in economics, right? If any one of you has studied economics, you would understand, you would have seen this graph. For people who have not seen this graph before, allow me to explain this graph to you. So on the y-axis, you have price. On the x-axis, you have quantity. Your red line is basically your demand graph, or rather how you can quote it as revenue line, right? So marginal revenue is the revenue line. It's not the marginal revenue line, it's the revenue line. The purple line is basically your supply line or the cost curve. Let me explain intuitively what do these curves mean. So the red line basically says as the price of the good goes up, the quantity demanded goes down. Right? I repeat, as the price of the good goes up, the quantity demanded of it goes down. Intuitively makes sense. The purple line, or rather the blue line, says as the price of the good goes up, the quantity supplied of it would increase. I repeat, as the price of the good will go up, the quantity supplied of it will increase. Intuitively makes sense. Now, why am I even showing these graphs to you? The reason why I'm showing these graphs to you is so that from these graphs you can take the differential. So the revenue line will be something like this: P equals to 10 plus 3Q, hypothetically. Or your cost line will be like P equals to 6 plus 3Q, right? You take a first order differential, dP by dQ of both the equations, you equate it to 0, you will be able to solve for the quantity at which you will be able to find the maxima, right? The first order differential. That is the bare minimum quantity you need to produce to eventually hit break even and hit your profitability, right? I know if this lesson was little mathematical, but these are literally the high school math techniques, right? Nothing really rocket science. And I can imagine if a lot of you would be thinking, but we knew about the concept of break-even, Shatakshi, even before this lesson. I can totally understand that. I knew that before my pre-MBA experience as well. But what you need to understand is solving it for one equation is one situation is fine. There are two opportunities for you. Why are we all learning these lessons, right? So that A, you can get promotion, or you can switch jobs, or you can get a new job. If you're in an organization, if you're in a big organization like Reliance, Tata, there is a high probability that you will have these graphs, right? But there is a low probability somebody is taking a first order differential and finding that mathematical equation and solving for that quantity Q, right? Or solving for that price P as well. You can do dQ by dP also, by the way, and solve for P. That is first scenario. The second scenario is that your organization does not have any graphs like these, right? You're probably a startup in that case. Then the opportunity for you to shine out amongst the crowd of your competitors or your peers would be to draw these graphs. Take data, take historical data, plot the graphs, and then take differentials. The third scenario for you would be that you can't solve for both, but then I would say that third scenario is when you had not taken this video lesson with me.